Good morning, everyone. First vlog of 2020, first coffee of 2020, and then this first international incident of 2020 going on in Iraq. Good morning, everyone. How was your New Year's? I slept through uh, New Year's. I went to sleep kind of early last night, and I woke up actually about 1:30 in the morning, and everyone was in bed. So I stayed up for a little while, went back to sleep, and then got up again around 5:30. So I missed all of the 2020 ball drop and CNN and everything that went on over there. Although I did see online when I got up a little bit of what happened over at CNN. They need to really stop drinking alcohol on CNN during their New Year's events because it gets out of control. It gets out of control. I'm using my AirPods, which I've never used before when I'm vlogging, so I don't know how the audio is. So let me know, guys. Good morning. And I'm watching. I just turned on the news and I saw these protesters in front of the embassy in Iraq burning an American flag. And I mean, that's just awful. Everything, regardless of your position on the war in Iraq, I was very wrong. I was for the war in Iraq, and I was very wrong. It was a bad idea, the war in Iraq. And we're still paying for it. What? It's 17 years later, right? 17 years later. It's terrible. And think about it. How many Americans have died or lost a limb or have burns on their body? For Iraq, Iraq is free. They actually have the freedom to protest because of the American flag and to see them burn the American flag. I don't care who's behind it. They say Iran, whatever. It's just wrong. It's just not right. It's terrible. Or whatever someone's position is on the war in Iraq, what's going on there now is wrong. And I don't know what President Trump should do. He'll know what to do, but I don't. It's pretty upsetting to see that. Mm. Oh man, I almost could have made it in on the air today. How's the audio with these AirPods? I've never used them when I've streamed before, so everyone's asleep, so I got to talk low. So I thought I better use these. But no, it's just it's terrible. And what's going on over there? Trump is really in a catch 22 because if he intervenes, he's threatening Iran because they say they're behind the attack on the embassy and these protests. I don't know. They call them protests. They call it attacks. I hear it called both on the U.S. embassy over there. We were going to escalate and have another conflict in the Middle East. I mean, we've been fighting in the Middle East, well, nonstop since 2003. We're going to escalate it again and have a new conflict in the middle. It's just, the one thing I learned from the war in Iraq is when there's a buildup to a military confrontation, it is rarely what it seems. And war in almost is bad. I mean, and I remember in '03, so many people, and I was for the war in Iraq in '03. I believed all the WMDs. We were in that post, people forget what it was like because we were in that post 9/11 era, you know. Is everything, did I forget to turn the chat on? No, I got the chat on. Good, good, good. Chat's on. Good. Want to make sure. We were in that post 9/11 era, and oh yeah. Is the audio okay with these AirPods? I can't tell. Mm. Well, after 9/11, hey Cindy, the whole country was in a different head than we were in today. Plus, we had a president, a vice president, and defense secretary who kind of pushing us in that direction, right? With Colin Powell too. But I was for the war in Iraq. I was so wrong. And here we are 17 years later. And oh, great. Yeah, because I'm really talking low. I'm really talking low because I don't want to wake up Kathy. Here we are 17 years later, and things in Iraq are heating up again. You know, we don't need the Middle East for oil anymore. We're the number one producer of oil in the world. It's got to get to a point where we've got to cut our losses. And all this business that went on during Vietnam, is peace with honor. That's a bunch of nonsense. It's easy to say peace with honor when you're back here as opposed to being over there, right? And I heard my whole life before 9/11 and before the Iraq War, the lessons of Vietnam, the lessons. You see that all the time, right? Every pundit, every news, the lessons of Vietnam, the lessons of Vietnam. And the lessons of Vietnam have not been learned because they're doing in the Middle East what they did in Vietnam. It's just a bigger area involving more countries. Is stay there for what? I mean, they're burning our flag in front of our embassy. Thousands of Americans have been killed, wounded, PTSD. I mean, how many Americans have gone to Iraq, liberated Iraq, and are dealing with some type of issue, whether it's a physical disability, mental disability, loss of life? It's not right. It's not right. And I don't care who's behind the protest. It's just not right. We really probably should not be there anymore. You know, we liberated Iraq. It's a democracy now. They have right to and I know what they'll say. Well, we can't pull out of Iraq because if we pull out of Iraq, Iran will move in, and maybe that's true. But so what? Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, well. This is different. Okay, this is an official this embassy. When they built, I haven't heard them talk about it now, but when they were building the U.S. embassy in Baghdad, it was very controversial because it was the most fortified embassy ever built. They were comparing it to, it's a huge area, huge walls, huge defenses. It's the most fortified embassy ever built in the world. So that was a good thing, I guess, that Bush gave us out of Iraq. But enough's enough. I mean, why are we even over there? That region over there. The strategic importance has always been because of oil, and now that we're the number one producer of oil, we have so much oil in this country. I was talking to on our um, Steve Kane cruise. There was a couple on the cruise that are in the oil business. They actually own oil wells, and I was talking to him. Because I've known the Florida Everglades is a national park, huge national park here in Florida, and it's nothing but muck. It's a swamp, and it's filled with oil. I mean, it is loaded with oil. Florida has so much oil. I mean, an endless supply of oil. But there were some oil wells in the Everglades, a handful that were put out there um, before it was made a national park and before the environmental protection, like in the 1910s or 1920s, and they're still there pumping today. And I've always wondered why Florida isn't pumping. And then I kind of Kathy had mentioned this to me. She says, well, maybe the government made that a protected land, the Everglades, to have those oil reserves to not be tapped until they were needed in the future. So we don't need that. We have so much oil in America, on land, offshore. We don't need oil from the Middle East. The mullahs are the new WMDs. I'm going to agree with you on that one, Laura. And I don't know what President Trump's got to do something. They're burning American flags. They're attacking an embassy. But President Trump, throughout his bedhead, uh, President Trump throughout his entire life has been anti-war. Right? He was against the Vietnam War. He was even against the war in Iraq. So he has a long history of being anti-war, which is a good thing. And it would be nice if the left could put politics aside and support, because Trump is not going to want to go to war. Oh yeah, this embassy is huge. I can't remember all the details. I'm surprised no one's talking about it in the news. But when they built that embassy, it is massive. It was like it's like the size of Vatican City. I heard one person say. I don't know if that's true, but I remember that being said when the embassy was being built, that it was as big as Vatican City. Why do we need such a big embassy? We're going to be there. We're going to be occupiers forever. Well, I guess they were right because it's now the Roaring Twenties again. What a way to start the Roaring Twenties of the 21st century. Are we the Roaring Twenties? Maybe we are the Roaring Twenties. Make sure you guys all subscribe, by the way, if you're not, subscribe. And if you'd like to support me, support my show, I have a Patreon. There's a link in the description to become a Patreon supporter. That's always greatly appreciated. Oh, man. And Steve Kane and I are going to be doing some new projects in the new year that we're working on. So that's exciting. Actually, we've been talking about doing some new projects for the last few months. And now after the first, we got to start working on them. Well, that's right. If you remember, Bill Clinton federalized a lot of public lands. So I'm wondering if you go through the national parks and all the protected lands of the country, how many of them are loaded with oil and other natural resources that are, that's an interesting thing. I never really thought of it that way until Kathy brought this up to me, and I'm pretty sure that's why. I agree with my wife that the Everglades is a protected national park to keep the oil from being drilled, just to have a reserve. You know, it makes sense. We have so much. We have more oil than we could ever that this country will ever use because the earth is constantly making oil. The earth makes oil. I'm streaming. Oh, happy New Year, Emily. Were you guys up at midnight? Yeah, my daughter's up. She just came out. Yeah, my poor dog got sick. I woke up. The whole living room was filled with the remnants of her stomach issues that I had to clean up. Oh my gosh, you should have seen me doing that. Oh my gosh, I was on my hands and knees scrubbing the tile floor. We've always been controlled by European royalty. We're controlled by European royalty now. Really? Well, that may be true if you look at Epstein. I mean, Prince Andrew's the number one figure in the Epstein scandal, and Epstein didn't make it to trial. A lot of people think that the royals are behind that. I don't know. Do they have that kind of juice? They got a lot of money, so anytime you have that kind of money, right? Oh, I put Fox News on. I got Superman on there, Pete and Rachel from the Real World San Francisco. Yeah, we were watching Rachel from on Fox the other day. We pulled up on YouTube some of the old Real World San Franciscos. Your gas is only $2 in Oklahoma. That's great. I remember Rachel from that's on Fox. She's on Fox now. When she was on the Real World San Francisco, that was when they had Pedro Zamora and Puck. Remember all them on there? And she was a Republican back then. She was a conservative, and they had her on there, and they were trying to make conflicts between her and Pedro, who was, remember Pedro had AIDS. Really? Where they couldn't defeat us, so they planted family members here in the USA. Who would that be? Like the Vanderbilts, Anderson Cooper's family? And she ate something. Well, when I was walking, I was streaming. I deleted the stream because I didn't want to keep the live stream up. But I walked her last night on uh, YouTube, and she was acting really weird. So she was not feeling well. But Kathy said yesterday morning when I was at work, she had the same problem. And we just cleaned the whole house from wall to wall yesterday. Kathy had me wiping off the walls, everything, because her friend's coming to stay with us for a week. So we're cleaning areas of the house that normally don't get cleaned, you know. I tweeted yesterday. My daughter is amazing. I am busy. I work more hours than I want to even think. I don't add up how much I work. I work so much, and I just don't have time or patience to do certain things because I'm so pressed for time. And my daughter did two things this week that blew my mind. Linda Blair's dog, like Linda Blair's dog in real life or Linda Blair's dog in The Exorcist. My daughter did two things this week that were absolutely amazing. You know, she's 20 years old. The first thing she did is the ceiling fan here in the living room, the light was broken in it. Had to be taken apart and repaired because the chain had broken. She took apart the ceiling fan and fixed that, which was absolutely amazing. And she did it all by herself. And then yesterday, my daughter got us for Christmas a one of those. Is it a Nest lock? One of those computerized locks you put on the door that you can open up with the app. You know, so you don't have to use keys to get in the house. And I opened up the box and I was like, oh my goodness, it's so many wires and everything in here. My daughter installed the lock on the front door, got it working yesterday. Unbelievable. OCD on the yeah. These are Christmas lights in the background that are flickering. Kathy likes to have Christmas lights up all over. Every room in our house has Christmas lights blinking in it, pretty much year round, because we keep the lights off in the house most of the time. Most of the time, we have the TV on and keep the house dim. Yeah, but the lights are always blinking. It's always Christmas in my house. Oh, there's one of the cat, and now Nina's sleeping over here. What a mess she made! Oh my gosh! I probably would if I would have. You guys have never seen me do it. I was on my hands and knees cleaning up this thing, scrubbing the tile. Oh my goodness! Trump Cheese's new plan on underage vaping. You know, I gotta tell you, I've been out at the mall and I've seen kids vaping that look like they're 11. Haven't you, Emily? Yeah. When I was in high school, there was a smoking section for the kids. There was a section. It was at our bus loop, and that was the student smoking area. Can you believe that? You think they do that these days? My stepfather, he told me when he was in high school, they had a smoking lounge for students that was actually a room in the school where the students could smoke. I know. Can you imagine? I never smoked. I was never a smoker. Mm-mm. Every one of my mother used to smoke. She quit. My dad smoked. My stepfather smoked. No, I never smoked. But yeah, the smoking. Yeah, we had a designated. Oh, I've got these in. Now I was just telling them that at my high school they had a smoking section on campus for students where you could smoke cigarettes. Is that crazy? I'd seen teachers out there bumming lights and cigarettes sometimes from kids. It wasn't that long ago. You couldn't chew tobacco though. They had a you couldn't. Yeah, yeah. They drew the line at tobacco and dip. Yeah, yeah. Tobacco dip. They drew the line at that because you just got to spit it out. Oh, Emily said I'm talking too loud. Can you hear me at this level? Let me see. Smoking was never my thing. I did try. Anybody ever chew tobacco? Oh my gosh, I tried that a couple times. Yeah, I tried chewing tobacco a couple times, and the dip that you put down in here. You hung out in the parking lot to smoke. Yeah, you could smoke in the student parking lot too, but they had a designated area, and the designated smoking area at my high school was actually uh, where the school bus was picked up and dropped off kids. It was bizarre. And I remember when I first saw it, I took the school bus in ninth grade. I was 15, and um, we pull up and get off the bus, and there were all these kids smoking, and they were wearing like Don Johnson Miami Vice suits. Some of them, because the Miami Vice was big then. It was '85, and like, oh my gosh, it was scary. I'm like, where am I? Chewing tobacco is nasty. Well, are you talking about the dip you put here, or the big leaves you put in your cheek? The leaf in the cheek, I did that a few times. That's not so bad. Really? Wow. What did you in New York? Oh yeah, my mother smoked my whole youth. She hasn't smoked in 30 years, but my grandmother died of cancer from smoking, and my mother stopped. You can hear me great because I'm like barely moving my lips. Good, because I'm going to use these more. Like when I'm vlogging at Disney World. I'm going up to Disney World on Saturday to ride that new Star Wars ride that they have. I've got to leave the house because the lines are so bad. It'll take me about 3 hours to get to the park, right, from my house. I got to leave my house at about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning to get there early enough to ride this ride. They better be noise canceling. And these AirPods. See, I think Apple makes them this way so you lose them. You know, because I have uh, some Beat by Dre's that are wireless. But they have like a string that you put around your neck, so if they fall out, it's still hanging. But not these. You lost yours? I haven't lost mine. These are the ones I've had for a long time. I got them when they first. Well, my wife gets everything off QVC, so because we do Easy Pay. Like my wife got me an iPad for Christmas. She got it on Easy Pay on QVC. No, this is my. I got this for my wife at Universal Studios Orlando. At Universal Studios Orlando, they have a SpongeBob store, a Bikini Bottom store. Oh yeah, chewing tobacco is terrible, terrible. But I only did it a couple times, but it was much easier than smoking. The big leaves you put in the cheek, not the dip that you put down here. That's Prince William offers prize to stop climate change. What's the prize? They're showing Neil Armstrong. Does it have something to do with Neil Armstrong? As they travel the world. I know you see people wearing these everywhere. The next phase, you won't see these. The next phase, it'll just be totally in the ear. It'll probably be the next phase of these. Then you won't even know. But you see people walking around with these all the time. Brian Ride and Gay Fun. I don't know what that means. Oh, you've been to Universal California. The one in Florida. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Universal. I'm more of a Disney person. But I don't ride roller coasters, and Universal's pretty much all roller coasters. So there's not much for me to do there. Ugh. Biden with the minors. Oh boy, they're starting this learn the program. I don't know. Is programming that easy to learn? I don't know. I don't know. I spend so much time on the computer with what I do. I get headaches. Grace, my daughter's amazing. I mean, she the ceiling fan. I mean, she took the whole thing apart all by herself, put it back together, and the lock on the front door, the hole wasn't big enough for the new lock to the door. She got that drilled out. She did. I couldn't believe. It's absolutely amazing. I'm just not. I don't have the patience, because I got so much going on. I don't have when I'm doing something that I don't do all the time, like a door lock or try to fix the fan. I just don't have the patience to do it, and I get very frustrated. And I was like, let's just buy a new fan. She's like, no, we'll fix it. We'll fix it. And I'm glad she did because it costs like $15 to fix the fan. And that's including buying a new cover for the lights and the light bulbs. It costs $15 as opposed to buying a new fan. Yeah, exactly. Oh, really? Wow. Live taping of the 18. Exciting. Yeah, that's what she did for the lock on the front door. Is used a YouTube video, and then she got my daughter for Christmas. She got us the Nest lock for the door, and then she got us a Nest thermostat which we haven't installed yet. So I don't know. We might do that this weekend. The thermostat, I worry a little bit more about. I was going to have somebody. You can pay somebody $75 to install it. That's like an official Nest certified installer. I was thinking about doing that for the thermostat because if you run into any problems, you can't turn the air on until you get it taken care of, and it's so hot in Florida. You don't want to be without air conditioning in Florida, even in January, you know. So might call an authorized installer for that one. She wants to do it, but I don't know. Clobber Lang. Was it Clubber Lang or Clobber Lang? I can't remember. Was it Clubber Lang? Mr. T. Howard Stern had Mr. T on a couple years ago, and he sounded like he was out of his mind, Mr. T. Hey, Milky. What's that? Almost anything you need directions to, like auto repairs, is on YouTube? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. My daughter's Fiat. It's so tiny. I had to change the bulb in the light bulb, and it was so hard to get in there because it's so tiny to do it. I went on YouTube. It took me 30 seconds to see how to get in. It's such a small area in the Fiat to get in there. I couldn't figure out how to get the light off out of there. Everything's on YouTube. That's what they say. Everything's on YouTube. I think that's true. It seems to be. Yeah. So I was talking about what's going on in Iraq. I mean, it is. I'm done with Iraq and Iran. I mean, is there anyone? Is there anyone in the chat who? Well, because I'm talking low, so I don't wake up my wife, and my daughter's going to sleep finally. Um, she had a party she went to. Is there anyone who's a Trump supporter who supports us escalating things in Iraq and with Iran, or do you want us out? I say, cut our losses, get the hell out. Who cares at this point? I mean, how many more? This is the thing. I've been talking about this all year. There's an escalation. Hey, Katina, Happy New Year. An escalation going on in Iraq right now, right? At least they're trying to push us into escalating. So, what I've been talking about all year is we are reaching the point where there are going to be soldiers in combat that were born after 9/11. Think about it. And here we are moving on 17 years since the war in Iraq. I guess it would be 17. Was it April 03? I want to say April 03. So at the end of this year or a year from now, there are going to be men and women in uniform in Iraq that were born after the war in Iraq began. I mean, come on. Come on. I remember Bush and Cheney said that the war on terror, when it was first starting, would last 12 years. Yeah, out. Out. It's a constant state of war. And, I remember before the surge in Iraq, and there was an insurgency over there, which was another screw up of Bush, you know, um, they didn't round these guys up like they should have, But I remember Oliver North was embedded with the troops for Fox News. And this might even be on War Stories, but I remember watching Oliver North pull into a town in Iraq. This was when the hot war was still going on. And there were all these civilians around, guys in plain clothes. And he was pointing out every one of them that was in the army. He said he could tell by their haircuts. He said, that guy was in the army yesterday. That guy was in the army yesterday. That guy was in the army yesterday. You know, maybe they are. I don't know. Wouldn't be surprised. So Iraq has been nothing but a mess that George Bush got us into, and it's time to pull out. I mean, I think it's a disgrace to be in a war that's as long has been going on as many years as the soldiers fighting it have been alive. I mean, that's just not America. I'm sorry, but what they said before the surge, and there was the Iraq insurgency, a lot of people pointed out, well, this is what they would tell us. This is normal. At the end of World War II, there was an insurgency in Germany until the 50s. And not really, I mean, there were some attacks and things here and there, but we pull out what happens in Iraq. Well, yeah, that is true, Jeff. But come on. Are we going to be in a state of war forever? What's the end game, Jeff? What's the end game? Steve I was talking to Steve yesterday after the show, you know, and, his son's a lieutenant now. He's in tank school in Georgia, and for the first time, he's starting to get worried. I told him to try to push his son to join the Coast Guard, you know, because it's non-combat. It's pretty, and he wanted to be in the Army, his son. So here he go. First thing he was going to do, he was going to uh, detonate bombs. Luckily, he got out of that. Yeah. Oh, is this another Gulf of Tonkin? Yes. Happy New Year. I slept right through it. I slept right through New Year's. Feed your horses, donkeys, chickens, ducks, geese, and dogs. Oh my goodness. You got your hands full. Me, I'm just going to be chilling out this morning. Got some things I'll do later, but I'm going to be chilling out and relax. It's nice not have to get up, jump in the shower, do, work, and then run out the door. You know, it's nice to just be chill. Chill. Sitting here with Milky, with Nina. Even though Nina's sick. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying, Jeff, in Maine, but it's enough. It's enough. I mean, if I had a kid that was in the military, I would be sick. I'd be sick because this is how things start. That's true, Katina. Problem, reaction, solution. There's no solution to the problems in Iraq. There's just none. You notice they're using Tammy Bruce a lot more on Fox. Tammy Bruce is good. I've always liked Tammy Bruce. She's very, very good. Remember, she used to be the head of Now in Los Angeles. Well, like I was saying earlier, Trump has always been anti-war all the way back to Vietnam. So he does not want to escalate. The one thing Trump understands that no other president understands is finances. And when they talk about sanctions in the past, I don't think they really do it to the degree they want us to think they do. And Trump has an understanding of international finances in a way that he knows how to have real sanctions, possibly, that would maybe have a real effect. But, when I saw them burning that American flag this morning outside the embassy, thinking about all the Americans who have been killed or wounded over there, how their lives have been affected all these years, it's disgusting. hmm That is true. You are right, Vin. Vin Man is absolutely correct. Well, have fun, Cindy. No, Vin Man is absolutely correct. They create problems and then the solutions. It's worth $5 a month. Yeah, you should get some kind of uh, commission on One American News. You and Nick Katina, you're the biggest promoters of One American News. You promote them more than they promote themselves. You do more promoting for One American News than Jack Posobiec, right? Absolutely. Well, hopefully this year will be a good year. I'm really already burned out on the presidential politics, aren't you guys? We need the Democrats to pick a nominee. I'm getting kind of burned out talking about these Democrats. Pick a nominee, you know, and let them run on their issues, and let's see where the chips fall. You know what I mean? I mean, we know the issues. The country is doing so well right now. No matter who the president was, they would be reelected if the economy was doing this well. Do you think Florida allowing ex-cons to vote? Well, that was awful. That was on the ballot. The felon vote. It's nonviolent felons. Okay, nonviolent felons, which helps a little bit. I voted against that. I couldn't. So here in Florida, we elected a Trump-backed governor, Ron DeSantis, who's excellent. We unseated a guy, Bill Nelson, who's been in Congress since I've been alive, with a Republican, our former governor, Rick Scott. So we had a very conservative victory in Florida again. And then somehow those same people voted to give felons the vote. I voted no on that. I can't believe that passed. They did a good marketing campaign because it's nonviolent felons. So they would show felons who were good guys who made some mistake when they were 18 or 19 and they can't vote. That's bad news because the question with the felons is if the felons get the vote, they're gonna, like any other group, there'll eventually be a felon lobby. So you gotta ask yourself, what would the felon lobby for, right? I mean, nothing good, nothing good. Well, in Florida, they're pretty strict on the ID. I got turned away in 2004. I left my wallet in the car and I didn't have my license, and they turned me away, didn't let me vote. I had to go back out, and they made me get back in line again. I was ticked. That was when Bush was running against uh, John Kerry. The best thing we have going for us in Florida is that you got to think about it this way, okay? Florida has had a Republican governor since 1998 when Jeb Bush first won. So we've got 22 years Republican governors. We just had a huge upset of a longtime Democrat that's been in power forever, Nelson, you know, and we've got Republicans now running the supervisor of elections offices in two of the most Democrat counties, Broward and Palm Beach County. So I don't worry about the vote fraud like I used to, and I don't worry about the felon vote that much because, like I said, it's nonviolent felons. If it were violent felons, I'd be more concerned. Trump won Florida by 180,000 votes. Um, he won by 180,000 votes in a state that Obama had won twice. So a lot of people did not think he was going to win, and the turnout was not as high. And I'll tell you a thing about Florida that's amazing to me. This is amazing. There has been in I live in a liberal town, and there has been a major change in tone in this liberal town I'm in so far as Trump. People love Trump. People love Trump, you know. And Trump's big support of Israel. There's a huge Jewish vote in the Democrat counties, and Trump has won them over like you wouldn't believe. No, he'll win by a larger margin. You just have to look at this last election with our governor, Ron DeSantis. Trump backed guy. Trump's going to win big time. His support is so. In fact, when I went to that Trump rally, um, again, was it November, beginning of November? Um, I was talking about my sister was there, and my sister lives over 2 hours away, and she drove over 2 hours with her mother from the other coast of Florida, from the Gulf Coast of Florida, in Fort Myers to Sunrise, Florida, to see Trump. That's amazing. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, how many? Yeah, I know. I mean, how many people drive 2.5 hours to see a presidential candidate and they don't even know if they're going to get in, right? They don't even know if they're going to get in because there's no guarantee. You get there, you get in. If they're full, you're out. When do you see that kind of support for any presidential candidate ever in history? It's not a good drive. You got to drive all the way across the Everglades. It's an awful drive. It's an awful drive. They did stay the night after the rally. They drove here that day from home. They stayed that night after the rally. They didn't drive back home. Yeah, I know. How do I feel about Republicans taking back the House? It's possible. I would say possible, but unlikely. Depends on how now. Well, tomorrow is a new era because we're in the new year. The Congress has got to come back. So Nancy Pelosi holding on to those articles of impeachment for so long, she's going to have to send them over at some point, isn't she? She waited so long; they lost their impact. It's interesting why she did that. I don't know if any of us know why she didn't transmit them. Did she? I know different people say different things. Like, well, she wanted to dangle it over his head, and not be. He would have been acquitted by now if they would have transmitted them. So they wanted to keep it going. I don't know. The Democrats had momentum. They had momentum. They had the Schiff hearing, the Nadler hearing. They had the vote, boom, and then the passed, and they had this momentum. They could have done it, and now they didn't. It's losing momentum is everything in these situations. She's waiting for the far left to cool off, and then what? Let it fade away? They'll never let it fade away. The far left, yeah. Need another cup of coffee. Ugh. So we got a French press here. There's my Starbucks. Gotta put some creamer in there. Okay. Now there's another cat in the eye. One cat runs in, one runs out. Right, free. Coffee creamer. Oh, the sun's coming out. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Can't have coffee without creamer in it. Not this coffee. Sometimes I do the Starbucks coffee. I don't get creamer in that. Okay. You want in? Okay. Okay, Ruby. You want out? One cat comes in, one cat comes out. These cats are in a constant state. They're like in a gang. They really don't get along. Yeah, I know. The cat hair's on my shirt. I know. I know. No, Ruby. Yeah, it's like Thunderdome. Thunderdome of cats. Yeah, that's Ruby. Yes, Ruby. Something happened outside she wants to tell me about. Oh, man. Oh, okay. Yeah, so this week we'll finally start to find out what's going to happen because when does Congress come back next week? There's going to be a lot of pressure on Pelosi to make a move. So what's her move going to be? It's unfortunate that the impeachment has become it's just a political thing. It's not about laws or anything. Yeah, I can't see. It's a little cloudy out. It looks like to me here, but losing the momentum was a big deal for Pelosi. She's not stupid. She didn't transmit them for a reason. We're going to find out soon. Hmm. Well, I was listening to um, a talk show. I can't remember which show it was, but I was listening to a radio show a couple weeks ago, right after the impeachment, and a caller called in and said that he had read an article somewhere. So this is like third hand, but it was a pretty good theory that because you're talking about Ginsburg, that one of the reasons Pelosi may not have sent the articles over is they want to hold it over his head in case there's a Supreme Court vacancy, and they want to make a case that the president in an election year who's been impeached and not acquitted cannot appoint a Supreme Court justice who may rule on whether or not they can be president or not. And I could see them don't put anything past the radical. It's unfortunate because you know when Obama won, I wasn't happy about it, but we wrote it out because there's elections. I didn't think we would win back the White House so soon, but we had this great candidate, Donald Trump. So there's still elections, and it's this being at each other's throats like it is going on is just ridiculous. I mean, Trump is not a George Bush, Pat Robertson Republican. Liberals, there's a lot about Trump that the left should appreciate. He's anti-establishment. He's anti the military-industrial complex. He's anti the big corporate donor class and all these things. These are things that the left used to embrace openly, you know. And Donald Trump is a candidate that has a lot of qualities that the liberal voters would really like. Well, you never thought they'd be this bad because you and I were not around during the Vietnam War protest era. You know, that's got something to do with it probably because, hey, Kathy, we got to see these new pictures, Disney World pictures. It's the Haunted Mansion. It's actually Disneyland, but we like the paintings anyway. Texas and Arizona will turn blue. No, Texas will never turn blue. I mean, look at that. You saw that church shooting and the aftermath of it. That's Texas. It'll never turn blue. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Not with the Democrats pushing gun control. Even Democrats in Texas are against restrictions on the Second Amendment. So that'll never happen. It's still the Wild West in Texas. You saw how many people had guns in that church? Well, I thought it was interesting when I went to the um, Trump rally. There's a lot of speakers that come up before he comes out, a lot of speakers. And every person that spoke, including Trump, made a big thing about protecting the Second Amendment. And out of all of the roars from the crowd, the strongest applause and support came when whoever was speaking, including Trump, was talking about protecting the Second Amendment. That is, the Second Amendment is as big to the Trump voting base and to Republicans right now as abortion used to be in the 70s and 80s to Democrats. you know, well, Katina, I wonder, there's a theory of, is the Democrat Party assisting in their own demise right now because of these radicals that have infiltrated their party? Are the Democrats, the Democrat establishment, they think long term, right? They're not thinking about this election or the next election. They're thinking about the long term control of the party. And Pelosi, I mean, has been around since President Kennedy. The establishment and the Democrat Party have lost control because they've got these young radicals in there. And there was a discussion when the Tea Party was coming around and challenging the um, Republican establishment, and a lot of these Tea Party candidates would say the party is not supporting us, even though we're very popular, the Tea Party, because they would rather lose the election and maintain control of the party. So it's very possible the Democrat establishment are open, they're open to the idea and maybe even helping. Hey, I thought you were asleep. Well, I don't know what's. I just let her in. She was just outside. I let her in, and Milky went up. She wants treats. She wants treats. That's 2 days in a row that Nina got sick out here. Happened yesterday morning too. Oh, okay. I feel bad too because I had to clean it up, and it was a mess. So anyway, is the Democrat establishment actively trying to lose the election to weed out the radicals that are pushing them so far to the left that they're turning off the American people? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I think there's a good case to be made for it. Mm-hmm. Oh, we'll find out then. What happened? Oh, her hair. She's got bedhead. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that might be a lot of what's going on with the Democrats to weed out the radicals, that they're making a move to do some self-destruction because they're thinking about 10 or 15, 20 years from now. They're not thinking about this election or the next election. If they were, they would have some credible candidate running. There are credible Democrats. Not every Democrat is like Biden and these lunatics. You know, they could find a credible, experienced Democrat that doesn't make a fool of themselves every time they're at a town hall. Hey Emily, what time is it? Yeah, I know. Oh, 7:16. It's right in front of me on the. Yeah. Yeah. No. I did not know that. Not the running time. You mean the actual time? 8:22. Wow. I did not know that. Instead of adapting the change, the bullet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, like I say, Tulsi Gabbard is who they're preparing to be I think probably more vice president than president because being from Hawaii is such a tiny state, you know. But they're definitely, that's the type of Democrat. Tulsi Gabbard is the type of Democrat that they're preparing to run after Trump, you know. And I know she's pretty liberal like Obama, but she's not openly that way now, right? I mean, she sounds so reasonable now, and she's got the military background. She's still in the service. She says all the right things, right? Even on border security, if you notice, she talks about the need, just like she says the same thing Trump says about the wall. We need a wall in some place, but in others we don't because of natural barriers, et cetera, et cetera. Bless you, Nina. Bless you. She's all better now because she's playing. She's feeling better now. Hopefully it'll stay that way. I don't want to clean up any more messes off the carpet. Yeah, I'm watching Fox on Apple TV, which is nice. I pretty much have everything now, almost everything on Apple TV. I rarely use the regular television remote anymore. It's much more convenient. You guys do that? Nah, that would be a throwaway candidate. No one credible wants to run against Trump. Mm-mm. You know, every once in a while they have these these throwaway candidates, they know they're going to lose, but they run them. They have to run somebody, and they've done a lot of work for the party. They deserve the nomination, and that's how you get Bob Dole. That's how you get John McCain. You can go through a whole bunch. Yeah, so you said it too. You can go through probably, meet Mondale, similar thing. Yeah, you can go back in time probably in almost every election and find these throwaway candidates like Bob Dole and John McCain. You know, they've been in the party a long time. They deserve it. Yeah, we do it too. Yeah, sure. Bloomberg. I would say Bloomberg today, anything can happen, is probably the favorite to get the nomination today. I don't want to say long term because who knows? He's barely been out there. You know, I know they're talking about Bernie Sanders, but that would be such a disaster. Here's the picture of them burning the American flag in front of the embassy again. I do need to get One American News on it. I've been listening to it. I'm not in front of the TV that much. I've been listening to it on Alexa mostly. Mitt Romney, he was a throwaway candidate. Yep, 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 yep. Who was going to unseat the first black president in his reelection? I mean, come on. I mean, who is credible that wants to be remembered that way too? Because if Mitt Romney would have won, we didn't know what a creep Mitt Romney was then, right? But if Mitt Romney would have won in 2012, 30, 40, 50 years from now, it wouldn't be looked at as a victory. It'd be looked like this white guy unseated the first black president. hmm Of course he will. Yeah, he said he would. He was at a press conference at the White House, and somebody asked him, "Is Pence going to be your running mate?" He says, "Well, I haven't asked him yet." So he asked him right there. He says, "Do you want to be my running mate?" Pence said, "Yes." He says, "Okay." Trump's already announced that. Yeah, Pence is his running mate. They don't change VPs anymore. No, no, that's not true. That's not true. I mean, I don't think Pence is presidential candidate material. I hope we don't run him in 2024. It's not that he's a bad guy, but he has no charisma. He's a little boring. Dems want the first woman president. Well, I'm not opposed to having the first woman president, but these candidates, you saw this with Trump in the last election. You can't have a casting for a presidential candidate. You've got to have a credible candidate that's likable and popular. You just can't have, okay, I want to have this cookie cutter casting thing. That might work in a congressional race, but not in a national election. There's too much scrutiny. They're put under the microscope too much. And I mean, look, how many candidates did we have with Trump? 15, 16, 14, you know, and Trump was number one from the first moment. You know, you've got to have somebody that has credibility and charisma and wins over the voters. I mean, Trump defeated some of these guys in some pretty heated races, and he didn't win every caucus and primary early on. So, that was a pretty hard fought race, but he was a credible, charismatic candidate that had support. You just can't, okay, we want to have the billionaire businessman candidate in this election, so let's find one. It doesn't work that way. Mm-mm. The generic casting candidates are all the ones that, like, I thought before Trump, before Trump came down the escalator, you know, I thought the Republican front runner and nominee was going to be Scott Walker because he had had that recall election and the whole Obama campaign was against him and he defeated that and won, and then Scott Walker was one of the first ones to drop out and you never hear from Scott Walker anymore. So I don't know what the heck happened with that. He was so popular. I've always wondered there must have been something going on in Scott Walker's background that got him out of because he used to be in the public eye constantly. Maybe he'll be back in 2024, but I doubt it. He was hugely popular back then. And when he dropped out so soon, I was shocked because I thought, well, he would have been a perfect guy to be the VP nominee with Trump, but he was out quick. He would have probably, Scott Walker probably would have been the guy I was behind if Trump had not run. You know, I mean that recall election they did with Scott Walker was pretty hard fought. The entire mainstream media went there. The Obama campaign, and he defeated them all. Remember Ed Schultz and Rachel Maddow? They were broadcasting live. And for him to defeat that, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I don't know what happened with Scott Walker. Something happened. What? I don't know. Oh boy. Fox is advertising all their new network shows. It's hard to get into these network shows, isn't it? With all this exciting news going on. This is going to be a bad year for Saturday and Sunday football because we have all of these. This is going to be a great campaign year. It's going to be all in the weekend. He wasn't energetic, Scott Walker. Um, he was just as energetic, if not more energetic, than all of the others except Trump. He was equal. I would put him equal with Ted Cruz and those guys. No, he dropped out too soon. I just found that very odd. He dropped out fast, and you don't hear from him really anymore. Every once in a while, you'll see him around, but not like the old days. There was something up with that. Man, we may never know. We may never know. Oh, the Illinois governor pardons 11,017 minor pot convictions. Well, I guess he's got to do that. It's legal everywhere. Come on. I mean, give me a break. Nikki Haley? I don't know. I don't trust Nikki Haley. She folded so fast on the Confederate flag. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I trust her. I'm not a supporter of the American flag. I mean, the American flag. I'm not of the Confederate flag. I'm a supporter of the American flag. I'm not a supporter of the Confederate flag. I misspoke. I'm still not quite awake. And she caved on the Confederate flag issue so fast. I'm not a supporter of the Confederate flag flying, but that's a big deal, especially in South Carolina. And she caved on that Confederate flag in a second. And it's not about the issue, it's about how fast she caved on it. That's pressure. That's pressure. So that's not a strong candidate. That's my take. But I could be wrong. I like her. She seems all right. Trump seems to like her. Oh, Ron DeSantis is the best. Ron DeSantis is the best. I love Ron DeSantis. No, I'm not seeing that. You're ready to support Cruz? Yeah, yeah. I don't trust Cruz either. He's from the Bush circle. I don't trust anyone connected to the Bush family. Everything from his entire career is through the Bush dynasty. I do not trust anyone from the Bush circle. Mm-mm. It's like we were talking earlier. Look what's going on in Iraq. That's the Bushes. We've been dealing with Iraq since 1991 because of the Bushes. Oh, yeah. If Cruz became president, if he would have become president, he would be consulting with G.W. Bush constantly on everything. And G.W. Bush blew up the whole Middle East. So, he was bad news. Bad news. Ted Cruz. I'm not saying he's bad now. He's fine where he's at, but I'm talking about being president. He's okay as a senator, but not as president. Mm-mm. No way. Mm-mm. Oh yeah, Ron DeSantis. He's going to be a nominee, but Trump was talking about how he looks. He looks. Oh no, it is bright out. Oh, the sun looks beautiful. Oh man, looks like a great day. If my daughter had not just gone to bed at 7:30 in the morning, I would have gone down to the beach and with my camera and done a YouTube video down at the beach.
All right, guys, I'm going to take off, but subscribe if you don't, and I might see you later. If I don't see you later, I'm going to be back on the air tomorrow at 6. All right, take care, guys. Make sure you subscribe, and thanks for watching. Take care.